Hey, you guys. Hello, hello, hello. I am super excited about tonight's or today's show. I am here with Mr. Aaron Brooks, and we are talking about dating after divorce. But before we go there, to those of you who do not know who I am the founder of this amazing platform. Let's be clear, the businesses make it rise, but this show, discussion rather, I like to call them discussions. It makes it a little bit more comfortable, right? So we can just relax a little bit. But I am the founder. My name is Tamara Burton, and I have been doing this discussion platform for a couple of years now. I'm super excited. We started off talking to couples only. And our mission and vision at the time was to share and show not what the world say marriage is, but what the word says marriage is, right? And so we've kind of graduated and gone into a place where we are now talking to divorcees. We are pouring into divorcees. We are locking arms with divorcees and just having regular discussion and conversation about things that happen after divorce. So today we're going to talk about dating after divorce with Mr. Aaron. But before we get started, Aaron, introduce yourself to the folks. Let them know who you are, how long you were married, how long you've been divorced, and then we'll just jump in there.
Hey, what's up, guys? Cool. I'm Aaron Brooks. I was married for 2 years, together with the same person for 5, but I've been divorced now about 3.5 years. Dating after divorce is very different. Started, basically married in my late 20s and divorced in my early mid 30s, and it was a completely different life being single in my 30s. So
Yeah.
Definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack, a lot of learning that's happened in the last few years as well.
Yeah, super dope. So I want to thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And being open and honest and transparent about this stage and phase of life that you're in. What I do understand is that when we are married, so I was married for 14 years and I was in that relationship for 20. So learning to date again has been very different, right? Because here's the thing. I want everyone to understand that I am not pro divorce. I do not advocate for divorce, right?
Me either.
We advocate for healthy individuals who are in a relationship or married. So we advocate for healthy marriages. But if you just so happen to find yourself in this lane of being divorced, I want to lock arms with you as I am with my bro over here, locking arms so that we can educate, share, talk about, be transparent about our phase and stage in this thing called divorce. And so since we're talking about dating today, I'll tell you, coming out of a marriage or just a relationship of 20 years, I continued to date my husband while we were married. Mm-hmm. We made sure we still hung out and did those things. But that was my guy, you know what I'm saying? And so today, dating, I have met some amazing people, don't get me wrong. But I think because of the experience with divorce and just marriage in general and growth and elevation of who I am, there's certain things that's a hell no, and some things that I will be like, okay, well, let's just see, definitely. Right? Yep. So you have your green flags, your red flags, and your yellow flags. Mm-hmm. And I always say, or orange or whatever color, yeah. I always say that orange or yellow flag is the one that you just kind of step back a minute and pay attention and watch and see the consistency of whatever said thing is. Correct. The red is a no. Of course. Yeah, there is no if, ands, or buts about it. There are some hard no's. And then the green, of course, you move forward. However, I still believe that moving forward should be done at a certain pace and not super fast. Definitely. What's your thought on the red, green, and yellow light of dating?
Boy, I firmly believe that people have to understand exactly what it is they're looking for. What people do is in those initial getting to know stages, they tend to kind of go with the flow and they see the red, green, orange, yellow flags, whatever they are, and they go, okay, well, I'll just kind of see what happens. And it's like, no, don't see what happens. If you see a red flag, you see a green flag, you see an orange flag, talk about them very openly, especially, most of us that have gone through these things are somewhere between the ages of in our mid 30s to maybe even our mid 50s. So we're all at an age where we don't need to go, oh, well, let's just see what happens and go with the flow. Because what ends up happening is you end up in the exact same situation.
Yeah, with a different person.
With a different person. You end up doing the same thing over and over again. So at some point, you have to be very direct and intentional about what it is that you want. Really know that and be able to communicate with the person who you're dealing with on what those expectations are, and also being able to receive those things as well. If there are red, green, orange flags, is that person trying to work on them? Are they really trying to work on them?
Right.
Or is it lip service?
Because we get a lot of that.
Yeah, do the words match the action?
Right. Definitely.
You have to be very purposeful about all of those things.
For sure. And so one thing I said often, and I think I just said it now, a red flag is a red flag, it's a no. However, I have to digress. A red flag is definitely a red flag. However, is this person willing to work on said thing? Now, I'm not trying to change who you are,
Correct.
Right? Who you are is just who you are.
Correct.
But sometimes what we'll do is bring in baggage and just stuff from past relationships, expectations, right? And maybe this new person, that's not their way of doing it.
Correct.
But effective communication will help us to bridge gaps and help us to create what works for us.
Definitely.
Right? And so some things that are green flags with, oh boy or oh girl, this person may do it and you may not like it.
Definitely.
So our experiences will help us dictate what we want in the now.
And I also say that they will help you weed the people out that you don't need to be dealing with. And I think that's what a lot of times, maybe this is a generational thing, that we just weren't taught how to do it. We weren't taught how to weed people out. And unfortunately, I think that's how all of us ended up down the divorce train, is because we were told that, hey, people can make changes. And I personally am a believer in people can make changes, but your character is your character.
Listen here.
By the time you're 25 years old, your character is what it is.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
You're not going to change a person's character. So if those red flags are deep character flaws, I'm sorry. Once I figure that out, I don't need to be here anymore.
Absolutely. I'm going to do me a favor and you.
Exactly.
And exit stage left.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we talk about dating after divorce. Prior to marriage, how did you date? What was your way of dating? How did you meet people? Was it the online stuff or just a natural?
No, I guess, I turned... I'm born in 87. So, you figure real dating probably started somewhere between the ages of like 18, 19.
Yeah.
I got married when I was 30, 31. So in that, in between that time. So how did I meet people? I don't know, going out places through friends, online dating wasn't as big then as it is now.
Yeah.
But I think also too, that's another place where we go wrong. I think that, a lot of times the best ways and best practices that are out there for you to meet someone who you're equally yoked with, we've, as a generation, we've kind of gotten away from those things, right? We tend to date outside of where we grow up, socioeconomic levels, all these different things. And there's a lot more to it too, because what comes with a lot of those things are similar mindsets, similar morals, values, family structures, all those things. And a lot of times what we do is go, okay, well, they're up here and I'm down here, but we can make this work. I'm sorry, that's just, unless the people who are not equally yoked in that area are truly actively not only willing to learn from their partner, but willing to make those changes, this is where we kind of run into a lot of issues. I think
I agree.
Most of that, to me, that's where a lot of where most relationship marriage issues kind of stem from.
Yeah.
So
I definitely agree with that. And you talked about, you used the terms equally yoked, and I think we press over, we override those things that he and she and I, or he and I, we aren't cut from the same cloth, right? We don't have those effective communication styles where we're asking about what type of relationship did you have with your dad? Did you have with your mom? What is the relationship? What's the best? I ask these questions now while dating.
Yeah, I didn't do that before.
I didn't either. I didn't even know I was supposed to.
Exactly. And even if I did, it was like, okay, let's still give him a chance, because everybody can change. Exactly.
But now for me, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Like, what was the best example of marriage for you? And sometimes it's, I didn't have one. And that's not, when they say I didn't have one growing up, it doesn't mean, okay, well, that's a red flag. It's a flag to be addressed, right? Because in growing up you didn't, but today, have you experienced someone or a couple who has done marriage and it looks successful? And what is a successful marriage to you, right?
Yeah. I have seen, growing up, the most successful marriage that I saw was my grandparents. I know that sounds very cliche, because everybody says, "Oh, I want the love of my grandparents."
It's okay,
but it's
the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I look back at my grandfather's been gone for about 8 or 9 years now. Time goes by quick. But my grandfather's been gone about 8 or 9 years now. But watching he and my grandmother's dynamic, and both flawed individuals, both have their own issues, both, all that stuff. But to watch them come together as a family, as a couple, to watch the way that the two of them interact with one another, just to, not to go down too far, but, my grandmother is very, she's honestly the most amazing wife I've ever seen in my life. My grandmother was the most amazing wife I've ever seen. It's honestly not even close. But seeing like who she is, my grandmother, she's fun, she's loud, she's a little boisterous and all that.
Right.
And watching my grandfather he just let her do her thing. But the thing is there were times where I'd watch and he may say something to her, and I would just watch her just listen. So it was just so easy, the way they communicated and listened to one another, and allowed them to be themselves. Yeah. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
That's so powerful.
And the interesting thing about it is, and I ended up finding this out years later, that I had other aunts, uncles, and other family relatives that when they had issues in their own marriages and their own relationships, they go sit down and talk to them.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that until I was an adult. Right. And it's like, and I think also too, if we're talking about marriages, divorce, and relationships, I think that that's something that wise counsel, I think we were taught as this generation, you keep everything to yourself. Yeah. I think just like they say, it takes a village to raise kids. It takes a village to raise a marriage.
Absolutely.
It really does. If you don't have the right people in your life, the right friends, the other couples to provide true wise counsel, I hate to say it, but I don't know if those marriages are going to last.
I definitely agree. I agree. I believe that it's very important for us to connect with and sit with and counsel with and hear from those who have been there, done that. We sit and we watch other couples, as you said, your grandparents, and you talk highly about your grandmother, and to have someone in your presence to show you what it is that you deserve, right? And sometimes we see it as children, but we haven't been told. No one really sit down and say, so listen, you see grandma and grandpa, that is what marriage looks like in action. And we know that they had to have gone through some stuff, right? Nobody's relationship or marriage is perfect, but when we know all of those things, when we are prepared, when we are provided those tools to use in our dating process, it helps us to better define or design, not define, but design what it is that we want in our relationship as we're growing, helping us, as we said, weed out what's going to work and hold on to what is going to work. And so in dating today, there's a lot of online dating going on. And I did sign up. I'm being very open. I did sign up, but I was off so fast. And I'll tell you why. I felt very thirsty. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like I was being pursued, right? It felt like I was pursuing. And the reason I say that is because if you see someone on the site that you feel is a match, if he doesn't, click on whatever, swipe right to say, hey girl, I like you. I like what I see. Then you do it, right? Yes. So it's kind of like, hey, me. That just didn't feel good to me, like at all. I want to be in a grocery store, walking down the street, working out, and we begin to talk, and it's like, hey, like he seems. That's what I want.
Yeah. So I was on a dating site recently, and I got off. I know this sounds crazy because I didn't see this happening. I got off because I met some good women, to be honest with you.
Really?
I did. Yes, I did.
Wait, but you got off?
Yes.
Please explain.
Well, because if you're, and this is what people don't do a lot of times on dating sites. If you're dating with an end goal, then when you meet someone or people that could help you reach your end goal, why are you still on the
Absolutely.
site? Right?
Absolutely.
So and the thing is even certain conversations that I've had with these women, a lot of them are like, no, I'm here for a specific reason. And I think a lot of times on dating sites, and I've talked to other men and women who are on dating sites, and they go, well, a lot of times I don't want to, on the little profile or whatever it is, I don't want to come off like I'm putting pressure on someone and, I'm putting my goals out there very quickly. And I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're because the thing is the people who feel pressure from that, you're scaring them away because they're not in alignment.
Yeah, weeding out.
Right.
Yeah.
So it goes to show that no matter where you're dating, whether you meet them at a bar, at a grocery store, getting in your car, whatever it is, there's still a level of intention that you gotta have.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
if you're not doing that, you're still going to have the same results. And so even like you said with the online dating, with me dating online, I didn't think that I would actually have success dating online, and that's why I was really apprehensive doing it. But like I said, if you do things the right way, I think that no matter where you date, it's possible to come up with the outcome that you're looking for.
So you are, from what I hear, you are open to marriage again.
Definitely.
Would that be your end goal?
Most definitely. I've never not been open to marriage.
Okay, so you weren't a bitter, angry, or maybe you started out that way when the divorce first occurred.
It's hard to say. I mean, going through a divorce is the hardest thing, I think, other than like loss of, the only thing I could think of that would be worse than divorce is like loss of a child or parent or something like that. Divorce is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
So I think back to my emotions at the time, and was I ever at a point where I was that low to where I was like, oh, I'm never doing this again? I don't recall ever feeling that way, although I do recall very low points. But I wasn't raised to be a single man, if that makes sense. I was raised to be with somebody and have a family, and so that's the way that I've tried to live my life.
Yeah.
So with that, I've always kind of had the thought of, okay, it wasn't marriage; it was the person I decided to marry.
That's it right there. Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people, and although I do understand why people go, I'm not getting married again. I get it. Trust me, I 100% get it. I just personally don't subscribe to that because knowing what I know now, there's a lot of information I wish I would have had 10, 15 years ago that I have now, right? But you can only go with what's in front of you. So now that I have that information, I'm very much like, okay, I think I know how to do this the right way now.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of had my little phrase that I have. I always say, I'm happily divorced, but not happily unmarried.
I'm happily divorced, but not happily unmarried.
Yes,
I like
that's
that.
one thing that I've always said.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm happily out of the situation that I was in. But I
Yeah.
never wanted to be, you know, to go through a divorce, and I never wanted to be unmarried at 37 years old.
Yeah,
It just wasn't it wasn't in the plans for me. But
I understand.
you know, that's the hand I was dealt. So
Wow.
now here we are, and let's do it the right way.
So two things. So when you said that you got off of the dating site because you met some great women.
Yes, definitely.
Did you get off because there was too many options?
Yes.
It was like, okay, so hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what? What do you do with that? Because are you still in communication with these ladies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this is fairly recently. It's only gonna last like a month. So
awesome.
Very recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, one thing that I noticed, and I got a close group of men who I converse with on a regular basis, my family really. And,
okay.
You know, I had one of them tell me, you know, I was like, man, it just seems like somebody else always pops up. And he's like, man, if you stay on there, you're going to do that forever. So, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. So you meet a few and you go, or a couple or one, and say, okay, you know what? Let me take a step back and focus on getting to know what I have in front of me and see if this can actually be something.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. And so I guess what that speaks to is you really having a true end goal, right? When folks are on there and they're just, let me just see. Exactly. Of course, they're going to keep rolling in, and there's going to be a lot of things and people that spark your interest.
Of course.
And you're going to exchange information with that person. And now you have like 6 or 7 or 8 people. And now you try to juggle this ball. And at this age, and if you have things going on outside of attempting to have a relationship or marriage, something's going to drop. Exactly. So yeah, I definitely understand that and agree with that as well. And then you mentioned you were not raised to be a single man.
Definitely not.
And I will say the same for myself. I was not, you know, my parents didn't say you are somebody's wife, right? The essence of what I was raised around, what I saw marriages, you know, some good and some not so good. Yeah. But for me, this is what I was born into. And so what I recognized about myself, and I had to do some adjustments in my singleness, how would I say it? I was a wife to everyone that I dated, right? After I got divorced, I just was wife. Exactly. It was easy for me to give wife, right? Yeah. And then God had to share and show me that, not that these guys weren't worthy of a wife, but that wasn't my husband.
Correct.
So you can't give the wrong person the right thing. It will spoil that person and the situation, right? So this may have been a relationship that should have gone a different direction. Maybe y'all should have just been really good friends. Maybe you were someone that was supposed to pour and feed this person, but you stepped into another lane with them without asking me, right? And so what I did, and I would say it loud and proud too, like, I'm a wife. And then when things began to go south, I'm like, wait, now I feel horrible because I've been cooking, I've been washing, I've been things that I shouldn't have been doing, right? As an unmarried woman. But because I will say, the one guy, I thought this was it. Like, this is my king. This is my husband. So all of what I'm doing is not in vain.
Exactly.
Definitely not in vain.
Exactly.
And then there was an area where I wanted to show him, because of the lack of things that he had learned in his childhood. Now let me show you that this really exists. Let me show you that this does happen. Let me show you, right? And God said, but you're not God. Yeah. You just be. You just be, right? My intention shifted somewhere in the relationship, and I need to prove to you that love really exists, that true love really exists, that God is amazing, I became that person. And God was like, so you're going to take my job, huh? Impossible.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful with knowing that we are husbands for you, wife for me. We have to be very careful with who we give that to.
Agree. I think that's where in the initial getting to know phase, right? And this is where it sounds like in that situation, that person heavily lacked in a certain area of being able to receive that, right? Because even though you give it, and that's one thing that I've kind of learned even in dating over the last 3 to 4 years, is that you can have all of the right qualities and be dealing with someone that does not know how to receive it, right? So with that, and that's why now, I took a step back about 5 or 6 months ago, and I was like, you know what, I need to approach this a lot differently, and I need to be very upfront, very clear about what I'm looking for, what that looks like, and knowing what I need from another person.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I'm going to go and give you, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with giving husband wife level treatment to someone who you're dating or you're showing, because at the end of the day, I have to prove to this person that I am a husband. They have to prove to me that they can be a wife.
Yeah.
Right? But it really just depends on how that looks. I mean, I now know that a lot of times pouring into someone that is heavily lacking in an area, that's a very big risk and a very big chance that you take.
Yeah.
Because they may not have seen that, growing up. And, I dealt with someone not too long ago where there's certain things that, even something like a man being vulnerable, that if you didn't have a father to show you what vulnerability looks like and show you, or a mother to show you how to receive vulnerability from a man, that's foreign to you. That could be foreign to you, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's something that I experienced personally. And it's like, if I'm not even a super overly vulnerable guy, but if I can't be at least a little bit vulnerable to you without you going, oh wow, that's kind of strange, what am I doing here? Because right. So those are the little things where you realize that people have issues, red flags, right? Where you can't give everybody that husband-wife treatment, and you have to take that step back.
Yeah. I shared something yesterday. I was talking to a young lady, and she and I were talking about putting something together. And so conversation kind of got to, sometimes we take on things, habits, spirits of other people that we've been connected with, whether it's business, romantic, or whatever. But since we're talking about relationship, we do that often. We take on the habits of other people, the person that we're dating. Yes. We take on the spirits that they carry, right? It just becomes a norm for us both. We begin to mesh. And so one thing that she said is, although when that relationship doesn't work, if it doesn't work, you need to evict those things, right? Because it's not who you are, it's who you became. Mm-hmm. You also have to be mindful of the things you gave, right? Sometimes we give things to people that does not belong to anyone but you. Mm-hmm. But because you may be a giver, like I'm a giver, so my person is going to get all of what I have. Like I want you to get the good, the bad, the ugly. And there are some good things or some things that I may have given away that I didn't even have enough to give away. So I gave my portion away. And now we're not together any longer, and I'm feeling a little, I'm lacking in an area. Correct. And so she shared, claim your stuff back, recover your whatever that thing is, recover it back. The way that you are evicting things out of your space in your life and your way of doing things, your way of thinking. Once you remove all of those things and now you have this space again, you need to reclaim what belongs to you so that you can continue to build who you are as an individual before you even go back into this thing called dating.
Definitely. Definitely. And that's like people say that either trauma, baggage from a relationship, whatever it is, you really do have to learn to get rid of a lot of those things. I mean, being in marriage, having relationships even after that, there are things that I may have, taken with me. Mm-hmm. And those things aren't necessarily who I am. It's just who I became in that in that situation, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, but this is where you have to have the ability to discern who you're going to allow yourself to be involved with. Yeah. Because on most of these things, the things that I don't know if I think I maybe saw it as an example, but was never told. A lot of these things are supposed to align. You're not really supposed to be taking on a whole bunch of negative or positive spirits from somebody else.
Yeah.
You guys should have similar spirits in these
Yes.
areas,
Yes.
right? And that's the thing that a lot of us were not told. We may, like I said, we may have seen it, but I mean, I saw my parents' interaction and I saw my grandparents' interaction and how great that looked and all of that. But the thing is all of them come from similar backgrounds. They all went to possibly the same churches, if not the exact same church, the church like, you know, down the street. And, you know, I mean, they're all a lot of my family. I have a huge family, and everybody kind of grew up within like a 5-mile radius of one another. So, and come from similar family structures. Yeah. So when they're coming together, they don't even really have to talk about a lot because you already got it. You know, with us, we're so much more spread out. Mm-hmm. We're so much more less communal than what we used to be. So true. That now you really have to dive into every nook and cranny of a person to see if you can align. So there is no, when you get to a certain age, there's no more dating and going with the flow. Yeah, you got to have a little bit of that. You got to have chemistry. All that's important, but I always say compatibility over chemistry. Yeah, because people can have chemistry and have an amount of chemistry where they are just inseparable. Yeah, but that a lot of chemistry is surface level. It's looks, it's humor, it's it's a lot of superficial. It could be a lot of superficial aspects, right? And then once you get past that and you realize that you're two complete opposites as far as compatibility, as far as the way you look at your lives, religion, parenting. I mean, all those things, you can't come together. Right. It's impossible for you to come together. Right. And if you think you had chemistry before, once that compatibility starts bumping heads, the chemistry's gone.
Yes, most definitely. And the Bible even talks about in Genesis, Jesus says that he was going to make Adam someone who was suitable for him. So even suitability trumps the compatibility, because we can be compatible today in something, and then tomorrow, because of our experience, whether it be something that I've read, someone that I've talked to, like you talked about diving deep into who a person really is. Now we're talking about certain things and it's like, exactly. But suitability says that I can carry who you are right now, or we can carry who we are together right now and later on down the line. Correct. As we grow, as we evolve. Correct. But that comes with knowing that this is your person. So sometimes, you know, before we say, you know, Lord, especially as believers. So this part is for the believers. For those of you that are believers, this is for you. If you're not a believer, you're not held to the same standard. Correct. So I am to go to God and say, because the Bible says, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord, right? So your favor comes with finding me, the wife. But at the same time, it's not saying that just because a man comes to me and he say, Tam, you are my wife. I know that you're my wife, that I'm supposed to just submit to that. Like, okay, there's some pursuing I have to do. And I have to pursue God to make sure that I'm trying the spirit by the spirit to make sure that this is him. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of men that have, even when I was on that dating site, you know, the first sentence was, you may as well get off of here because you're my wife. And I'm like, hi, you know what? And so, corny, I don't know. Oh my goodness. You may as well get why are you here? And, you know, those type of questions. And
they don't even know you.
You know what I've typed.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't heard my voice.
Exactly.
You haven't seen my body language. You're going off of what you see. And too often we are marrying because of sight.
Agreed.
We are marrying because his arms, his chest, his height, all of these things, but we don't know who the person is. Correct. We don't know if they have integrity, morals, values. Do they respect women? Do they respect themselves? Do they know what love is and what it's not? Correct. Do they know what the glue to a healthy relationship looks like? Yeah. What is a healthy relationship? It's not everything going well all the time.
It's not.
For me, if I look at someone, a couple, and I say that's a healthy relationship or successful, I have seen them have their bouts with things, their disagreements, and it's not what they go through, but it's how they go through.
Yeah.
It's how they communicate.
Correct.
It's how they go through those things and how they fix them, right? And so I don't want to see, although I'm clapping my hands when I see couples that are just getting along really good.
Yes.
But at the same time, when I know, and especially with a lot of what I do, I sit with couples often, and they talk about certain things that they go through, and it is such an honor to watch them from meeting 1 to meeting 5 and how they've grown, and then some that did not grow. You know, that's it's unfortunate, but at the same time, the end goal for me in those meetings is that the individual grow and it will benefit the relationship.
Correct.
Right. But is this dating thing it's just so much to it. But my question to you is, what is a perfect first date for you? Is it like we're going to dinner? Well, I don't want to put nothing in your head. So what is a perfect first date for you? Someone that you've met, you may have met her online, or you met her in a grocery store and you guys started talking. When you get together, what is something you think would be good?
So if I'm being 100% honest, I don't even want to go on a date with you if I don't have at least like a 30-minute phone conversation with you. If I'm just being 100% honest. And the reason why I say that is because when you talk to somebody and they're not in front of you, and this is doing it on a phone, and not text messaging, I mean talking on a phone, right? When they're in front of you, yeah, there's certain things that you can't hide. I know people have that thing in front of you, right? But at the same time, you're not blinded also by, if you're a woman, if I'm a charismatic man, you're not blinded by my charisma or the way that I look, and vice versa. I'm not blinded by this beautiful face and whatever else you have going on. I'm just hearing your voice. I'm hearing your thoughts. I'm hearing the way that you process things. Because I'm not in that 30-minute conversation. And this is why I say, like, I believe in a level of intentionality. I'm not just going to talk to you about the weather. Like, we're actually going to talk about some things, right? I want to see where your headspace is at. Is this even worth me going on a date? Is this worth me even getting to know you? Right. So once we get to that point, if we have a date, you know, I can say, I believe in courtship. I really do. I heavily believe in courtship. So I think that, you know, I know some people are like, oh, well, you know, you can do a coffee date and you can do this and that. I think that a nice dinner for a date in a restaurant where you can actually talk to someone and get to know them and see their facial expressions, and it's mainly just the two of you, is a good date. I mean, it's old school, it's old fashioned. Call it what you want it. But it's the best way to get to know somebody.
Absolutely.
And I know sometimes people are like, oh, well, we should do an activity. Well, I'm sorry, but in activities, sometimes there's too much fun. Like I hate to say it, but I'm not 18. I don't need to go out on a first date with you to just have all this fun and you know, have my serotonin levels. Oh my gosh, she's no, I want to get to know who you are. Right. Like I'll be 40 years old in a few years. Like I'm trying to set my life up a certain way. So I want to know what you're about. And like I said, I think courtship as a man is extremely important. And I think as a woman, you have to recognize what that looks like. And it also should be an expectation if you're a woman as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Good stock. You came for some good stock. Look.
Hey, I give them all the credit.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I know you said you got off of the site. Is there someone?
Yes, there is.
There is someone.
Definitely.
Okay. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I'll just say it's going well.
Okay, good.
Good.
Well. Good. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, very well.
Awesome.
Very happy.
I'm glad that you are. I think that you know, men of your caliber that knows exactly what he wants deserve what he wants. Right.
Agreed.
And so I'm happy that you are connected with someone who has sparked your interest.
Definitely.
And that you are willing to grow and go and learn more about the person. And I pray that you guys continue to mesh and learn each other and then get to whatever the end goal is, which I know what the end goal is.
Of course.
I really hope that happens for you. I want to be at the wedding. Hey, girl, hey. I want to be at the wedding, but I am super excited for you because I understand, yes, and you've been divorced for 3 years.
Officially 3, but really 4.
Okay, and you were married for?
I was married 2 years with the same person under the same roof within that marriage for 5 years.
Got you. So, okay.
Not officially married for 5 years, but might as well.
I got it. But 2 years on paper.
2 years on paper.
But correct. You were,
correct.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, because we all know that marriage is not just paper.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, definitely not.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and joining me for this discussion. If you had to speak to a single male that was dating, what advice, I know this is kind of broad, but something that you think is the foundation of dating, what would you share?
Single males, I think nowadays you really have to tap into not just who you are as a person, but who you are as a man. Understand those two things, understand where you lack and improve those things. Understand where you're great and stand on those things. And also, when you're dealing with a woman, be very direct and clear about expectations. I mean realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And if you have expectations, be willing to give what you receive. And that may not be the exact same thing, but be willing to give as a man what you would like to receive from a woman. So that would be my main thing with especially younger men.
Yeah. And so if a woman is receiving the things that you just said that a man should be willing to do,
yes,
what would be your advice to her?
The same thing, really the same thing. Learn who you are as a woman, learn your capabilities, and also be able to listen to what the expectations are, especially if you know that you're getting what you need. And maybe you don't have all the tools and all the knowledge and advice on how to reciprocate it, but be willing to learn.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of times, I don't think you have to date somebody who's already ready-made, but you do have to date and you have to be with somebody who is humble enough to know that old saying, be humble enough to know that you don't know anything. Right. And so with that type of mindset, you're always going in, you know who you are and you're confident who you are, but at the same time, you're willing to learn. And man, woman, you have to be willing to learn because there's no, in certain aspects, you have to do the same things. There are little cookie cutter aspects about dating, marriage and all that, but you're also an individual and you really have to learn the person that you're dealing with.
Indeed. Thank you for that. I will end with this. In my book, The Marriage Policies and Procedures, one of my chapters, I call them policies, but one of the policies, I talk about being a teacher and a student, right? You must always be a teacher, be willing to teach who you are becoming, because who we are when we first meet, those things change by way of, I say it all the time, experience, right? And then who the person is, I have to be willing to learn who you are becoming, because I have to adjust. Shifting has to happen. I can't continue to love you the same way or care for you the same way or serve you the same way as I did in the beginning of the relationship if you've changed, right? Because that's not going to work. So thank you so much for sharing your points of view on dating after divorce. It's a lot. Again, I am happy for you, that you are where you're at right now and that you are in a space, a happy space and place in dating. And so we're going to have you back on sometime soon, somewhere down the line. And then I'll ask you about this little situation you have going on right now, right? Yeah. You guys, thank you so much for hopping on. Please make sure that you like, that you share, comment. We'd love to get some feedback from you so that we can respond. And we will talk to you soon. You guys have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Absolutely.